working good? All right. Are you okay reading video? Excellent. All right. Without any further ado, Hubert will let us know about Matrix. Thank you, Hubert.
Okay. I can spend a lot of time talking about Matrix. What I thought I would do is just go through a fairly brief presentation, giving an overview of what Matrix is, and then I can see what topics people want me to talk more about in detail, and then I can make something up on the spot for those topics. Matrix is, in general, it's a communications protocol. It's what's called federated. Another federated system that you probably use is email. Basically what federated means is that users connect to a server. They connect to their own server, and then the different servers talk to each other. So with email, you connect to your own email server, but your email server can talk with any other email server in the world. In Matrix land, the server that you connect to is called the home server. It doesn't have to be, a server that you run at home. It can be anywhere, but it's just called a home server. So Matrix is a real-time communications protocol, unlike email where you send a message and the other person has to check their email. With Matrix, it's more like a chat system. It has persistent history. Persistent history is one of the main goals of Matrix. Basically what it means is that if you send a message, then you can always access that message from any client that you have. And whoever is in the same room that you sent that message in can also access that message. So again, it's sort of like email, where when you send an email, then the email sits in your inbox. It stays there until you delete it. Matrix is built on JSON data over HTTP as a baseline. There are some experiments with using Matrix over different transports and using different encodings, but the baseline is JSON data and HTTP. And Matrix in itself can be used for different things. It's most well known for instant messaging, and it can be used for one-on-one chats or private groups or large public discussion groups. But it has also been used for Internet of Things, virtual reality, so storing like details about the virtual reality world. Recently, there's been a project that's been experimenting with collaborative document editing over Matrix, and there's also been a project in the past on making a blogging platform over Matrix. So it's quite a flexible tool. So Matrix is decentralized. As I said before, it's federated like email. Users connect to their own home server, and servers communicate with each other. So Matrix IDs look like this. So it's @ user, and then there's a colon, and then your server name. communication in Matrix happens over rooms, and a room is just basically a series of messages. And rooms are shared between servers that have users in them. So for example, if I'm in a room with Paul and we're on different servers, then our servers will communicate with each other and synchronize all the messages that get sent to the room. So if I send a message, it will go to my server. My server will put it into its copy of the room, and then it will also tell Paul's server about the message that I sent, and then Paul's server will merge it into his copy of the room. And it actually ends up looking a lot like a Git tree, because if we start talking at the same time, then I'll have my messages and Paul will have his messages, and then they end up looking like a tree where his messages will go down one branch, my messages will go down another branch, and then our servers will merge them together. If any one server goes down, even the server that created the room, then everyone else in the room can still talk. So if, say if I'm in a room with Andrew and Paul, and we're having a conversation, and my server goes down, then Andrew and Paul can still talk to each other. And then when my server comes back online, then it's going to try to synchronize the messages from that room with Paul and Andrew's server, and then I'll be able to catch up with the messages. Matrix is an open standard, which means that the way Matrix works is published, it's online, anyone can look at the specification and make their own client, they can make their own server, they can do whatever they want with the Matrix specification. So it's not like a lot of chat platforms where there's only one supported client, and if it doesn't work the way you want it to, then tough luck. Matrix has a whole bunch of different clients you can use. The most popular one is called Riot, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. So Neko, Quaternion, and Spectral are all clients written in TT. For the desktop, Fractal is one written for GNOME. WeChat itself is mostly an IRC client, but someone's written a plugin for that that connects to Matrix. Matrix is a new one, which someone wrote for the Nintendo 3DS. And Bashtrix is sort of a toy client that is written in about 10 lines of Bash shell code. It's not exactly the most practical client, but it can be done. Curiously, no one seems interested in writing a client for Windows Phone, even though there's one for Nintendo 3DS. I don't know. Take from that what you will. You can write bots for Matrix in pretty much any language. So any language that you can do HTTP requests and encode JSON data in, you can write the bot in. Anyone can contribute to the spec. So there's sort of a spec core team that manages the spec and reviews all the changes, but then anyone is free to contribute any improvements or fixes or whatever they want to the spec. So one downside to being an open standard is that sometimes features take longer to appear than than if it was in a centralized service, because the spec team needs to make sure that things interoperate with each other. But then the consequence of that is that you get more freedom, and you can anyone can do whatever they want with it. One of the major features of the matrix is that it's intended to be able to bridge with other networks. So Matrix has bridges to IRC, XMPP, Gitter, Slack, Hangouts, Discord, Telegram, and many other things. Some of the bridges aren't as advanced as others. They might not have so much features, but there are a lot of different networks that there are bridges for. And how the bridge works depends on what the other network allows. So, for example, this is Matrix HQ room, which is sort of the main discussion room for Matrix. So you can see there's a bunch of people who have written messages in it. Actually, let me show you. So pretty much all of Freenode is bridged to Matrix. And there's a tiny room on Freenode called KWLUG, which doesn't get much activity, but I can write a message in this room. Hello from Matrix. And then I have my IRC client. If I go to the KWLUG room, here's my message. And then I can go and if I go back to my Matrix client, I can see the message there. So with this bridge, every Matrix user is associated with an IRC user. And we can do that because IRC has allowed Matrix server to create a whole bunch of users on behalf of Matrix users. And also each IRC user gets represented by a Matrix user. So if I look at the member list, these are all the people who are in it, and most of these people are connected through IRC, but this person I know is connected through Matrix. So that's IRC. Another bridge that we have is Gitter. And Gitter, unlike IRC, doesn't allow us to create a user for each Matrix user. So what ends up happening is that there's this one Matrix user called MatrixBot, which ends up sending all the messages from Matrix into the Gitter room. And the messages just get prefixed by the username. So, but if I send a message from here to the room in Gitter, then I would need to there. You see that my Gitter user has sent a message to the that shows up in the Matrix room. So bridging isn't perfect. It depends on what the other network allows us to do. Some bridges work better than others, but there is usually some way of talking to most other networks. Oh, right, and this page here, shows a lot of different bridges that there are. So there's, I mentioned before, IRC, Slack, Gitter. This RSS just posts RSS feeds into a room. There's Discord, Rocket Chat, iMessage. iMessage is fairly locked down, so it's one where you need to write your own bridge. You can't just use a public bridge. And I think you actually need to run it on a Macintosh or a Mac OS computer that's running iMessage. So that one is fairly limited. There's also Facebook Messenger, email. So I think there are a couple of email bridges. One of them is where if you send an email to a specific address, then it will post that email into a room. And then there's another bridge that tries to allow Matrix users to be able to communicate with people like over email users like over an email mailing list. So there's SMS, Telegram, WhatsApp is another one that's fairly locked down, and so you need to run your own bridge. And yeah, various other things. Okay. End-to-end encryption. So Matrix has end-to-end encryption. It's something that you can turn on a per room setting, a per room basis, because some rooms it doesn't really make sense to turn to use encryption on. So like if you have a large public room with thousands of people in it, then encryption isn't going to do much when you have 1,000 internet strangers all in the same room. And encryption also slows things down a bit. So you don't want encryption in large rooms. But if you're having a private conversation, you can turn on end-to-end encryption. It's based on the double ratchet algorithm that was created by Signal. But it has another layer on top in order to make it more efficient, because the double ratchet system is it's only for communicating from one device to one other device. It's not really intended for group messaging. The encryption was audited by the NCC group a few years ago. I think there's plans to have another audit done because a few other features have been added to the encryption. Not the encryption algorithm itself, but various things around it. And currently, not many clients support it. So I think right now it's just, it's mainly Riot, the three Riot systems, Riot Desktop, Riot Android, and Riot iOS. And then there's Neko, which has partial support, and Quaternion is getting some support, and there's the WeChat plugin that has support for encryption as well. But I mean, because end-to-end encryption is fairly complicated, so a lot of client authors haven't gotten around to implementing it yet. But there is a proxy that you can use. Since it's all just HTTP, so someone wrote a HTTP proxy that speaks Matrix, and it allows pretty much any client to connect through the proxy to be able to read and send end-to-end encrypted messages.
So can somebody impersonate you when you communicate? Because I remember at the beginning you said that the communication is persistent, so that means, I guess,
Yeah.
it's locked somewhere forever.
Yeah.
So if someone impersonates you, then you are legal liable for something you didn't say.
Well, they'd have to prove that you actually said it, but you can also do key verification to sort of show that you are actually who you say you are.
Sorry, can you mention the question for the record? On the audio?
Yes. The question was whether someone could impersonate you by, sending a message and claiming it's you. So yeah, if they would have to either guess your password or manipulate the server directly in order to impersonate you. But yeah, there are also protections to make sure that if you're just talking in an unencrypted room, then there isn't really any protection in there. But then there's also no way to prove that you said something. So I don't think you would be held liable for anything you said there unless someone could prove that you actually did it. In end-to-end encryption, in end-to-end encrypted rooms, the way the encryption algorithm works, other people that you're communicating with will be able to tell whether you actually said that or not. And if they verified your key, then they'll know. They'll know if you said that. So there are protections there. Yeah. So since Matrix is an open standard, you can host it yourself. So for most people hosting right now, the home server you'd want to use is called Synapse. It's sort of the main server where most of the development work is being done. There are a few other servers out there that are being developed in various stages, but Synapse is the main one that it's actually working. And there are a whole bunch of different ways that you can install it. There's dev packages, Docker, Kubernetes. People have made Ansible playbooks, which install not only Synapse, but a whole bunch of other things with it. You can enable or disable if you want. One thing about Synapse right now is it can take a lot of memory or disk if you join a lot of large rooms. But if you're just using it for like personal chat, like with your family or friends, or if you're in small groups, or if you're just like doing a company network, then you won't need as much. And Synapse currently supports Postgres or SQLite, but if you're doing it for any serious work, you want to use Postgres, because if you use SQLite, you're going to have performance problems. There's a bunch of other services around Synapse that you may or may not want to host. There's what's called an identity server, which is probably one of the more confusing terms in the Matrix universe. Basically, all the identity server does is it allows you to look up other users using either their email address or their phone number if they associate a computer ID with one of those. So, for example, if Paul creates a Matrix account, but I don't know his matrix ID, but he's added his, he's associated with his email address, then I can talk to him by typing in his email address, and then the identity server will look up his matrix ID from the email address. Most people will probably want to use one of the public identity servers because that's where most people are have registered. But if you're looking at like a company or something, then you might want to host your own identity server. There's one called MA1SD. It's probably the best one to use. There's also something called an integration manager, which basically allows you to manage the bots and the bridges in your rooms. And if you want to host your own, there's one called Dimension. And then, again, also if you want to host your own bridges, rather than relying on publicly hosted ones, there are a lot of bridges you can run, and there are also a lot of bots that you can run. A lot of people have written bots to do lots of different things. So the future of Matrix, communities, so yeah, Matrix is constantly evolving. These are some of the big projects that Matrix is working on for the near term. Communities is a feature that appeared 2 years ago, but it sort of works. It doesn't work as well as we would like it to. Basically, a community is, I don't know if you can see there on the very left-hand side here. There are a bunch of circles. So this here is the matrix community. If I click on this, then it's going to filter the room list to only a few rooms that are related to matrix. So, for example, the GSOC room is not part of the matrix community. So if I click on that, then GSOC is disappeared. There's this Debian community. If I click on that, then it's just the Debian room and the matrix on Debian community, or matrix on Debian room. I can also view the community. So those are just the rooms that I've joined. If I view the community, then it lists all the rooms that are in the Debian community, and I can join one of those if I want to. Yeah, it sort of works, but it doesn't work as well as we would like it to, and so we're basically revamping the whole thing and trying to make it better. Portable accounts is something that, so right now your identity, your account is tied to your own home server. And what we'd like to be able to do is allow you to switch your account from one home server to another. So for example, if you're on a server somewhere and they decide that they're going to shut down for whatever reason, then you want to be able to move all your stuff from that server to another server. So that will hopefully come soon. And we're also working on improving the end-to-end encryption and making it easier to use so that basically anyone can use it. And then once it's at the point where it's easy to use for everyone, then we're going to turn it on by default for private conversation. So how do you join Matrix? So the first thing is you want to pick a server and create an account. These first two things are lists of different public servers that are out there, public matrix servers. So you can click on one of, go to one of these lists, pick a server, and then create an account there. Or if you don't want to use a public server, you can host your own, or you can pay someone to host it for you. And the company that I work for has a product called Modular, which is basically hosted home servers. So you can do that. I think that we're the only one currently who does hosted home servers. Once you have an account, you can join a room. So this is the KWLUG room bridged from Freenode. So this is the address. You can join other rooms, or you can chat with someone. Right, so that took longer than I had hoped. I don't know, maybe I'll just jump to questions.
So if a room is federated across multiple servers, then who controls the room? Like, is there like a moderator permissions?
Right. The question was if a room is federated across multiple servers, then who controls the room? So yeah, there are. Let me see. Yeah. So in Matrix, there's something called power levels, and a power level is just a number, usually from 0 to 100, and then you can associate different permissions with different power levels. So here in this user list, you can see a bunch of these users have badges on them. Some of them have gold badges, some of them have gray badges, and then some users have no badges. So in Riot, the gold badge means the admin power level, which is usually power level 100. And then gray is the moderator power level, which is 50. And then normal users are usually power level 0. And then, so, yeah, different power levels can do different things. So, for example, banning people is usually only power level 50 and above. Setting the room topic is usually power level 50 and above. There are a few things that only admins can do, but I don't remember what. But yeah, all of that is fairly configurable. I think you're next.
Yes, so each server has the copy of the whole room's conversations, or
not necessarily the entire room. It's mostly from the point where the server has joined the room that it starts synchronizing the conversation. So in Matrix, there's two different types of things. There's what's called state events, and then there's message events. Message events are just normal chat messages. State events are things like the room membership, the room name, so things about the room. So usually servers will synchronize the entire state, but not messages. They'll only start synchronizing the messages from the point where they join the room, but then they can, depending on the room's history settings, they may be able to fetch previous messages from other servers. So yeah, rooms, you can set the history visibility settings to so that users can only see messages from when they joined, or all messages, or from when users were invited to the room. I think are the three different settings.
It is related with you do a search on a matrix.
Search?
If you do a search of something, yeah, it's like doing a similar like doing a search on an email server, yeah.
Yes,
So then it goes through all the network and all the rooms and search for that thing.
No,
or-
there isn't a way to search through all matrix. So usually when you search, you can search for messages in a specific room, but then it will only search for the messages that your server knows about. You can search for rooms. So there is a room directory where you can search for rooms. But this only searches for the rooms that your server knows about. You can, or if you specify a specific server. So if I say, so I'm telling my server to search for the rooms on a different server, and then it will bring up the results for that server. But there isn't really a way to search the whole matrix network.
So you don't have like a master node. Yeah? I'm trying to make analogy with the blockchain, where you have a full node that has all the blockchain, and you have the light nodes.
There isn't really anything that contains the whole matrix.
Oh, okay.
So it's more like email, where each server just sees its own stuff, and it communicates with the other servers that it needs to. But you can't really search for all of the email everywhere. So I think you were next.
With the bridge for IRC,
Yeah.
does it require the, like for Freenode, does it require their assistance, or does it just manually make a bunch of users?
Yeah, so the question is, for IRC bridging, does it require assistance from Freenode? Yeah, for most IRC networks, they have limits on how many users you're allowed to create from a certain IP address. And so for all of the bridges that are hosted by matrix.org, they've gotten permission from the IRC operators to create large numbers of users. So, but yeah, if some random person tries to create a bridge to Freenode, then they'll probably run into issues if they allow other people to use the bridge. If they just use it for themselves, then they might be okay. But if they open it up to the public, then they'll probably run out of connections. I think you had another question.
Yeah, the room namespacing, if you name a room,
Yeah.
is it at a server or a user that created it or something like that, so separate namespaces?
Yeah, so the question is about namespacings for rooms. And so rooms in Matrix are a bit different. So there's the room name, which is just a plain text name. It can be anything. Rooms in Matrix can have Riot calls them addresses. In the spec, they're called aliases. And aliases are basically pointers to a room. Let me show this first. Every room has an ID, which is usually a random string, and right now it ends with a server name. The server name is actually not important. It's basically just for making sure that there's no collisions, but it's actually not important. If the random part was long enough, then there would pretty much be no chance of collisions. But of course, no one wants to type this in to their matrix client. So matrix rooms have aliases, which is a user-friendly name. So this room has accumulated a whole bunch of random aliases, but the main one is #matrix:matrix.org. And these aliases end with a server name. So the aliases are owned by a server. And this room has various other aliases on different servers. So this one is matrix:decentralizing.world or matrix:novaim.com. So yeah, each server can maintain its own set of aliases to a room. I think Paul had a question.
So in terms of clients,
Yeah.
what's the best client you can use from a terminal window?
From the terminal window, the best one is probably the WeChat plugin.
But then do you need WeChat in order to use it?
Yeah. Yeah. So you would use WeChat, and then you would install WeChat, and then you would download the plugin. It's written in Python, so you need to make sure that you have the Python support in WeChat. And then there's installation instructions here. Any other questions?
Are you aware of any attacks on Matrix?
There have been attacks in the past, but they've been addressed. At least most of the major ones have been addressed. The biggest there are a few other attacks. For example, Matrix allows you to have ridiculously long display names, and so some clients, if you have a really long display name, then your name will pretty much take up the entire screen. But other clients have addressed that by just truncating your display name. So that's something that's sort of handled on a client-by-client basis. There are some other attacks, but most of them aren't major ones. All of the major ones that I know of have been addressed. Any other questions?
With all the bridges that I saw there, I know this is not probably the purpose of it, but would you be able to use this to bridge all your messaging platforms into one class?
Theoretically, yes. If you only use, but yeah, if you only use those networks, and if the bridges support all the features that you need, then yeah, you could. But yeah, as I said, some of them will require you to host your own bridge, which also means that you also need to host your own matrix server. But yeah, you could theoretically host all your own communications if you want. Yeah.
Suppose a bridge, so like if you were running 5 gig long
Yeah, so the question is whether you can host a bridge on your laptop or if you need to do it on an online server. It would depend, I think it would depend on how that network works. So basically, if that network requires you to be online all the time in order to get messages, then yeah, you would need to host it on always online server. But if it's something that that fetches messages from when you're offline, then you might be able to host it on your laptop. Now the thing is, if you're hosting your own bridge, as I said, you need to host your own matrix server. And currently, the matrix servers sort of assume that you're always online if you're talking with other people. If you're not talking with anyone else, then it doesn't really matter. But if you're talking with other people, as I said before that it does try to synchronize with other people, but it's not perfect and it might miss some things when you're offline. Basically, if someone sends you a message, but then doesn't send anything else in that room for a long time, then your server won't notice that until the next time they send a message. So for most people, you would want to host your matrix server on a server that's online fairly reliably. Any other questions? Yep.
You said Synapse can use a lot of memory and disk if you have a lot of large rooms. Numbers on that, like 4 gigs of RAM, like?
I don't have any numbers on disk space, but for memory usage, most people recommend between 2 to 4 gigs for if you're joining large rooms. If you're just doing like small groups or one-on-one chats, then I've heard of people who have run Synapse on like a Raspberry Pi. So it varies a lot.
I don't remember if you mentioned there are other products similar in philosophy with the Matrix.
Are there other products similar in philosophy to Matrix? So the biggest product that's similar to Matrix is probably XMPP, which is formerly known as Jabber. XMPP stands for Extensible Messaging and Presence Protocol. So yeah, Google Talk used to be based on XMPP before they switched to Hangouts, and yeah, it's let's see, XMPP is based on XML instead of JSON, and it sort of uses its own special protocol rather than HTTP, but it has a lot of similar goals. So it's also a decentralized messaging system. It's federated, so you connect to your own server and the servers connect with each other. I think one of the biggest differences between XMPP and Matrix, well, there are a couple of big differences. One of them is that persistence isn't a built-in feature in XMPP. The main thing about XMPP is you send a message to your server, it sends it to other messages, and then it can sort of forget about it. There are extensions to XMPP that allow for persistence, but it wasn't one of the original designs. Another thing is that in XMPP, rooms are hosted by a single server. So if that server goes down, then the room is down. But yeah, it's another decentralized messaging system, and it's I used to use it a lot. Any other questions?
Have there been denial of service attacks? Like, what's to stop someone in the public room and just keep asking for the entire history of the room to try to log down my server? Is that something that I'm going to have to mitigate using other technologies, or are there mitigations built in?
Right, so the question is about denial of service attacks on Matrix and what's to stop one server from just asking your server constantly for history. I am not too familiar with that. I don't know if there's any mitigations.
Or any rate limiting?
There is rate limiting for parts of the protocol. I don't know if the history request endpoint is rate limited, but there is rate limiting. I don't know specifics for that, but so requests, generally requests are signed by the requester in some way. So if you're a client, then you have what's known as an access token that you use to prove that you're a user of that server. And if you're a server, then you have a key that you use to sign your requests. So in theory, I guess you could check the signatures of requests and see if a certain server has been constantly asking for room history, the same room history, and then you can say, stop it. I don't know if that's implemented, but that's something that could be done. The server key checks are used to make sure that only servers who are allowed to see the room history actually can fetch the room history. So if someone just says to your server, I want all the history from this room, then the server can say, you don't have any users in that room, so you're not supposed to see anything. Any other questions? All right, that's it. Stickers, there's Matrix, and riot stickers.